At the age of 23 in 1951, this artist had her very first solo exhibition show. She was a major contributor to the abstract expressionist movement. She was influenced by artists like Clement Greenberg and Hans Hofmann, although she did much influencing herself. She was born in Manhattan, New York in 1928, and her name is Helen Frankenthaler. Many of her paintings were inspired by nature, so I'd consider her like an abstract landscape painter. Most artists would stretch their canvas and then work as it sits upright, but she actually liked working on the ground because she felt like it was a very different relationship. I'm feeling particularly inspired by her gray fireworks. Unlike Mark Rothko, who's a very structured abstract painter, I want to make sure to keep this look very Helen and very loose and gestural, almost like an ink blot. I've started with a wash of blush coming from the Likely Makeup Clown Blush Palette. This is the shade Carousel. And to start with the eyes, I'm going to use the About Face Fluid Eye Paint in the shade Freak, which I feel like is that perfect gray lavender that I see in the painting. Getting an initial base down with one color is a fun way to start and kind of build inspiration as you go. I'm using the brush that has a little bit of that extra blush pigment on it, so it'll kind of just marry itself together nicely. Taking that all the way up to my brow. Using the Twilight ColourPop palette, I'm going to throw in this light dusty blue shade called Unconditionally, and I want this to frame the sort of outer edge of this look. And it's kind of a makeup faux pas, but I'm probably going to use only like 1 or 2 brushes for this whole look. Then I'll use the shade Say It Out Loud, which is a cool brown, to start building in a little bit of shadow. Also mixed in the shade Bella, which is just darker. And using the Palladio Ultimate 9 Count eyeshadow, I'm going to use this dark purple to my lower lash. And this painting actually has a composition, maybe that's why I like it so much, that mirrors a lot of shapes that I like to do in my makeup, which is sort of this like upside down triangle shape in the middle of the eye. And this does not need to look ultra blended. In fact, I don't want it to look ultra blended. Using the Makeup Revolution Festive Allure palette, I'm mixing the shades Evening and Opulence to add back in a little bit of highlight. I keep the purpley pink tones more in the middle of my face, and we'll add back in some blue on the outer to give it just more of a dimensional look. As you can see in the bottom part where the most purple is, I want to add just a little more saturation using the Hindash Monochromance eyeshadow palette. Then we've got the base of the eyeshadow down. The fun part is going to be to add all those little details with some eye paints. First, About Face Fluid Eye Paint in the shade On Point, using just a little eyeliner brush to add in some detail. Now using the Half Magic Chrome Addiction eye paint in the shade Serving Siren, keeping this mostly in the blue. My favorite part about this series is turning paintings that obviously do not have makeup in mind at all into something that is a little bit more beauty centered. Using the About Face shadow stick, I'm going to add just a touch of white, and in some of those lightest areas, I'll add a little bit of brown liner, focusing it mostly next to the white. I mixed a little bit of a liner concoction, but the tones weren't really working for me, so I packed like a shimmery dark purple on top. Lastly, using the Juvia's Place Rebel Gray palette, I'm going to use this shade right here, and just literally marry everything together. This is almost like when you glaze a painting. The last detail we have yet to add is the lips, and I think we're missing this beautiful rust tone that's right here in the painting. And I think it'd be the perfect way to round it off. Here's the final look, inspired by Helen Frankenthaler, specifically her painting Gray Fireworks. I mean, there are so many colors in this painting, but we only used a handful, yet I still feel like there are so many other ways that we could have done this look.